With Final Fantasy VII Rebirth just around the corner, I've made it my personal mission to get all the Final Fantasy VII trophies available. Now, I've conquered the 1997 classic, so up next is Crisis Core Reunion. After another stunning opening cutscene, I get through the prologue fairly quickly and pick up a few trophies in the span of about 20 minutes. I get the Come and Get It trophy for winning my first battle, the Prove Your Honor to Me trophy for firing off my first limit break, and finish off a rather easy behemoth fight to wrap up the prologue for the Embrace Your Dreams trophy. Then the game starts off proper and I get mail from Console and Shinra News, kicking off the Mail Completionist trophy, the first of many collectathons. Most of these I'm actually going to get automatically through the story, so I'll only point out when the collectathon starts and the missable ones, and trust me, there's lots of missable ones. Speaking of collectathons, I complete the first of 300 missions. This one's nice and easy, and it's not as if I'm gonna spend about 10 hours in this mission later on anyway. No, absolutely not. Who would do such a thing, and why? Haha. Anyway, the Shinra shop is also available, kicking off the shop completionist trophy. Again, missable ones, I'll bring those up as and when. I then run around Fort Tamblin like a headless chicken, taking out all 16 battles here. Fortunately, there's a quality of life upgrade over the original game on the PSP, and the map will kindly actually point out to you where all 16 are, so I don't get too lost. Then I take down the not-so-Wonder Twins before catching up with Dr. Lazard, who is so impressed with my kick-ass skills from Fort Tamblin that he gives me the Hero of the Wutai War trophy? Yeah, I don't know why the question mark is there, but whatever. Then I take advantage of Ifrit's weakness to ice with Blizzard and Blizzard Blade to wrap up Chapter 1, and I proc the He Wouldn't Betray Us trophy. Chapter 2 is where the trophy hunting and collectibles begin in earnest. First things first, I defeat Ifrit in a rematch to grab his limit break. Then in Sector 8, Zack joins the Keepers, Red Leather and Study Group fan clubs to start the Fan Club Aficionado trophy. Doing these also progresses the Male Trophy too. Remember, all these fan clubs are actually missable. After that, I talk to this security chief and begin the missable Peacekeeping Troops mission set. Completing these nets me Craftsman Monthly, a flower wagon part that I'll need for later on as well. I also pick up the missable Mako Stones missions, and doing this saves some imaginary people's jobs and nets me the Master Mako Stone Miner trophy. My strategy for doing the missions for now is to just do the 1 to 3 star missions that become available. I'll increase my difficulty range as I get further into the game, but right now it's just about pacing myself. Okay, back to the plot. I Pikachu this machine to death and then explore Benora and these 5 gold spots on the ground before heading into the factory. Genesis reads a book, and then it's time for the first minigame of the run. All I have to do is slice 10 shells for a trophy. There's plenty of cues, so obviously I failed it on the first try. Okay, let's try that again. Second time around, I do get it right, and my reward is the Slice and Shells trophy. Then I run around like a man on fire to pick up those 5 gold spots I just talked about, within the time limit for the Benora Treasures trophy as well. But wait, there's more. Bahamut arrives for a fight, but because of those missions I did earlier, he's absolutely no threat to me at this point, and down he goes. With Bahamut done, so is Chapter 2, and the We're Not Monsters trophy is mine. Well, you wait forever for a trophy, and then 3 come along at once. New chapter, new missable missions to tick off. This soldier 3rd class wants Zack to do all his missions for him to, learn. And so I complete all 6 of his missions to get more flower wagon parts, this time some premium tyres. There's also 2 new optional limit breaks to pick up. I win the rematch against Bahamut and also defeat this Hungry to pick up Odin. Then I speak to Professor Hojo to become his lab rat for a side quest. It's a fairly simple one, just win some battles that get steadily more difficult. After defeating this behemoth with more twisters than Tornado Alley, I grab the First Rate Soldier trophy. I'm not done yet with the optional stuff though, as there are 2 more missable missions to pick up. I talk to this guy and this woman and complete both those missions that they unlock to start the Monsters in Midgar set. Okay, enough of that, back to the plot. Zack gets promoted to first class, which unlocks two things for me. One is battle reports, which allows him to recover HP, MP and AP after battles depending on performance. This is massively useful and new to Reunion as well, and I will be looking to abuse this moving forwards. I also unlock Materia Fusion, which allows me to craft my own materia. After performing my first one, I get the Got Materia Fusion Down trophy. Zack then plays hero and rescues 3 sets of people on the soldier floor from certain doom. After Zack meets Cisne for the first time, there's also 2 more optional battles that need doing that lets Zack fulfill his heroic requirements, and I get the Everyone's Hero trophy to boot. I drop a bunch of Blizzaras on this joke of a boss's head, some plot happens, and that iconic cutscene happens too. Thanks to all the missions I've done, the main story right now is a breeze, and I sweep aside all the lackeys with Firers, Blizzaras, and Thunders, which somehow results in Zack plummeting down to earth. Where have I seen that one before? Anyways, I get the Angel's Dream of One Thing trophy for completing the chapter. Chapter 4 opens up with Zack and Aerith finally meeting for the first time, so you know what that means. That's right, it's time to start Yuffie's treasure hunter missions. I grab all 6 of the Chocobo mode limit breaks whilst doing these. The only unusual one here is Magic Pot, because you basically have to do a game of Simon Says. This mission set is the easiest time to get Magic Pot because the 4 abilities required are fairly low level in the form of Jump, Fire, Gravity and Assault Twister. Trust me, you'll be seeing this guy again later and he's going to get a lot more annoying. Now, before I get to the cool stuff, there's another missable Monsters in Midgar mission that I pick up here, and it's very easy to miss. Then it's time for Zack and Aerith to team up and catch a small child. Zack gets bamboozled not once, not twice, but 5 times. This might appear optional, but I do actually have to let this happen so that Aerith feels more sympathy, I mean attraction towards Zack. After that, I do catch the little sod, but he does the whole, puppy eye thing. And Zack offers to pay for his medicine. What a nice guy. Also needed for the attraction. There's also a few trophies I pick up very quickly here. The first one is this guessing game, which is made easy by choosing the number that Aerith and the boy both predict. Boom, there's the bingo trophy. Then Zack tries his hand at perfume making and I get it right first time for the Master Blender trophy. However, I need to do it 3 times correctly in a row to make Aerith uber happy. I didn't get it right first time as I somehow pressed X too late and had to reset. But I did get it right eventually on the 4th or 5th try. Don't ask. The last trophy in this segment is a materia collection minigame. Basically, I have to once again run around like a lunatic to collect 20 materia as fast as possible. After failing miserably the first couple of times because I forgot the sprint button exists, I got it on the 3rd try, well within the 15-second time limit, and I snatched the godlike trophy for going fast. Oh yeah, there's another missable Monsters in Midgar mission here, and talking to this young girl unlocks it. Okay, now that that's done, Zack and Aerith's date wraps up, and Small Child gives Zack his seal of approval, and I get the good match for Aerith trophy. Right, time to save Hojo, and by save, I mean become his lab rat again. I answer his very simple questionnaire by basically becoming the ultimate bootlicker for the Of Significant Worth trophy. Then there's this timing minigame where I basically have to keep track of an invisible countdown timer and press X on exactly 0. Except not. This took me a fair few tries because I didn't realise that I had to time it with Zack pressing the button and not my press, and the animation is slow as balls. Anyway, I do get it done eventually and the Precise Restoration trophy is in the bag. I then press one more red button because, why not? And this initiates a minigame where Zack goes around and steals from a bunch of Clifford the Big Red Dogs 4 jail keys and ransacks some jail cells as well. The stealing was honestly really stupid because it didn't always connect and it took me out of my natural combat flow, but I did get it done. My reward for completing this in the 3-minute time limit, apart from some okay treasure, is the Cell Raider trophy. Time to wrap up the chapter against Bahamut Fury, and honestly I got super mega lazy here. I know I was well above the level needed to do this and therefore didn't really switch my brain on. I let him get off a full power Exaflare just to, see what it could do, and it turns out that it was nothing that an elixir wouldn't fix and I had plenty of those. I assault twisted him to death, and that ended chapter 4 and gave me the Where Did Everyone Go trophy. New day, new chapter. Before anything interesting happens though, it's time for Squat for Shinra. This game is super simple. I just have to press triangle as Zack's arms are going beyond his knees, and I easily beat all 4 of my useless inferior opponents for 4 extra wagon parts and the Shinra's Squat Champion trophy. There's a couple more missable monsters in Midgard missions that I need to do, and after completing the rest of the series and bring this Shinra traitor to justice, I score another wagon part. Talking to these two also unlocks the missable urban development mission series that will open some shops for us, and I'll touch on that in just a bit. I then run into this soldier guy and agree to help him find some Wutai spies. Before I do that though, I need to talk to this reporter hiding in the corner, agree to, not report him, and I get another missable mailer to my list. Back to the Wutai spies, and I catch all 6 of them thanks to the power of Google, and I get the Wutai's Nemesis trophy and yet another wagon part. Oh yeah, and each spy that I catch opens up a new missable mission. This is the final missable mission series, by the way. Every other mission is now unlocked either via the story or by completing previous missions. I don't want to move away from the park just yet though, as a super easy quiz gets Zack into the Silver Elite fan club and mailing list. I sweep through a few more easy 1 to 3 star missions, which leads to a couple of new shops and another mail sender. Time to get back to the plot and get introduced to this absolute nobody. Then it's time to do my best Solid Snake impression by getting through one whole area undetected. Now, regular viewers will know that despite platinuming the entire Sly Cooper trilogy, I am awful at stealth sections, and on the first attempt this was no exception because, and I cannot stress this enough, I am super mega impatient. Surprisingly though, I did somehow get it right on the second try, grabbing me the Master Infiltrator trophy. After that, the plot thickens and Genesis goes down surprisingly easily to some Dark Blizzaras. There's some bathhouse shenanigans, and then it's time for a showdown against Angeal Penance, which is pretty easy thanks to his dual weakness to ice and fire. One dead mentor later, Zack gets the Buster Sword, granting me the Protect Your Soldier Honor trophy. Chapter 6 introduces the Buster Sword proficiency system. It's kinda cool as a mechanic, but as Angeal once said, use brings about wear, tear and rust. So I'll be sticking to my magic materia strategy for the time being. I increased my mission scope to 4-star missions now that I'm making good progress in the story, and I make some really good progress on some collections. For example, I finally get the 75 missions completed for the missions completed 25% trophy, and unlock 2 more shops in the process. I get on with the plot, and then it's time to defend a wall. All I have to do is kill 30 enemies that are weak to thunder and stop them getting to the fort. Seeing as Thundaga is doing over 9,000 damage in a straight line, this one is ridiculously easy and the immovable object trophy is mine. There's also an optional scene with Cisne that for platinum trophy hunters like myself is actually not optional, because it leads to another fan club. This also results in acquiring Cisne as a mail sender. Then there's this blast from the past, as I spam Thundaga and I actually kill it with a Tumberry's knife. I'm not gonna lie, that one was actually super satisfying to do. This chapter ends on a rather unsatisfactory note, if I do say so myself, and did Genesis really die? I don't know, but here's a trophy with that name on it. Chapter 7 is pretty action free when it comes to the plot, but that doesn't mean I can't do some missions. I up the ante and focus on anything that's 5 stars or below. There's a couple of, sticky moments, such as this massive hulking Wutai weapon, and the Mover's Delta attack that I kept forgetting to guard. Apart from that though, the rest is pretty smooth sailing. This is also the chapter where I get the rest of the wagon parts. After grabbing some used tools and the old lumber, I take a quick detour. Why? Well, there's some fan clubs in crisis. Luckily, all I have to do is tell this mother to stop abandoning her kids for a dead man, and these 2 grown women to grow up and get along, and I get the fan club savior trophy as my reward. I also grab the old tyres from this man here in Loveless Avenue, and then it's time to join the final fan club. See, the receptionist in the Shinra building will only reveal herself if you spoke with Cisne earlier, and this completes the fan club set, and I earn the fan club aficionado trophy for joining all of them. On top of that, I get another missable mail sender to add to the collection. Now that that's all out of the way, I can pick up the building instructions back in Sector 5, and that's actually all 12 wagon parts that I need. This doesn't proc the trophy just yet though, because for some stupid reason I have to run back and forth between here and the Shinra building for plot purposes before I can hand in all the other wagon parts. But eventually I do get it done, and the Midgar full of flowers trophy is in the bag. There's some more plot, and for once there's no chapter ending boss fight. Just this face from Cloud when he hears the gang are going to Nibelheim. I go past the point of no return and I grab the I May Abandon Shinra trophy. Chapter 8, aka the one where it all goes wrong. There's a side quest here called the 7 Wonders of Nibelheim that's also related to a trophy. I do the first one, I get the Phoenix materia and the only truly missable limit break for my efforts. After some story, it's time for me to do some 6-star missions. The main highlights here are me picking up the Wutai materia shop, giving me access to some filthy elemental materia, and taking down Bahamut Fury with aerial drain and darkness, since he's immune to all magic attacks. Well, why am I mentioning this fight? Because that's the last limit break needed to pick up the limit break collector trophy. Let's get back to the story. I grabbed the 2nd and 3rd wonders that I mentioned earlier. Sephiroth goes a bit loopy. Then I grabbed wonders 4 and 5, including a cameo by everyone's favourite former Turk. Sephiroth goes even loopier. Nibelheim burns, and I do complete the 6th wonder by saving a woman from a burning building. Hellfaraga is a disgusting materia for this stage of the game, leading to Zack besting Sephiroth not once, but twice. Unfortunately though, the cutscenes have a slightly different interpretation as to how that fight went down. Luckily, Cloud does 99,999 damage to Sephiroth, and I get the I'll Come Visit trophy. 5 years later and chapter 9 is upon us. Before I make any real progress though, I get mail from the Wonder Hunter. This guy is not only the last missable mail sender, but the last mail sender altogether, and I bag the mail completionist trophy. After that, it's time for some 7-star missions, and this is where the missions actually start getting interesting. Highlights include the 1000 Shinra Soldier mission, which was made pretty easy thanks to Hellfaraga causing instant death on pretty much everyone. I also get another shop and hit the 150 missions completed mark for the mission completed 50% trophy. I also pick up the Goblin Punch materia fitting 55% as well. This is the most important materia pickup in the entire game. I also got the Brutal to break the damage limit and the Adamant Bangle to break the HP limit. There will be better accessories for these kind of things later, but for now I can spam Darkness and wipe out entire hordes of enemies at the drop of a hat. And spoiler alert, that won't be the only use of my HP moving forward, apart from, not dying. With all those missions out the way, I finally get the 7th wonder for the 7 Wonders Expert trophy. It's then time for another minigame. This time it's all about sniping robots. I make this ridiculously easy by spamming Darkness in all encounters so that I can ramp up my kill points on the super soft robots, and then fully max out the sniper rifle and pick them all off. As a reward for none of them escaping, I snipe the Zack the Sniper trophy. Then, this mini-boss gets tossed aside by Hellfaraga, I grab the only truly missable shop in the entire game in Gongaga, and then it's time for yet another minigame where I grab treasure chests from a waterfall. This one's pretty easy. Honestly, there's nothing to add here other than make sure you avoid the gas strikes. I get the Waterfall Chase trophy for grabbing all 10 chests. I believe in a thing called love, so I spam the Darkness against Hollander to bring him to his knees and get him to listen to the rhythm of the heart. The Mad Scientist goes down and I get the We'll All Be Heroes trophy for clearing that one up. It's time for the final chapter and the final stretch, or it would be if I didn't have the rest of the missions to do. There's a ton to cover here, so let's get started. I uncover a couple of more shops and then use Materia Fusion to craft the most powerful materia in the entire game, Costly Punch. Why is it so good? Well, you pay 15% of your current HP to deal a ton of damage to any enemy who's on the receiving end of Zack's punch. The more HP Zack has, the more damage Costly Punch does. Thanks to the Adamant Bangle and Brutal accessories I mentioned earlier, and some HP boosting materia, this happens. I get the Overpowered trophy for dealing 99,999 damage. I complete some more missions to get the 75% mark and get the missions completed 75% trophy, as well as pick up my first piece of Genji equipment. I find this version of the magic pot in mission 766, and I need to perform Guild Toss, Costly Punch, and deal 99,999 damage. These 3 are easy. Then I have to do an Octaslash limit break. Oh, okay. The only way I can increase the random chance of Octaslash appearing is to load up on Octaslash materia, which I can get from that missable shop I got in Gongaga earlier. It's going to take a few tries to get this right though, and Magic Pot isn't exactly patient. When Magic Pot says boring, I have to react quickly and forfeit the fight so I can try again. Otherwise, I have to pray for the 5% chance of him reappearing in the first place for that to happen. So what I do is I stall as best as I can until the DMW gives me Octaslash, and then store it so I can use it. It does take a few attempts, but I did get there in the end, and the Genji shield is mine. I also pick up the rest of the shops just by doing their respective missions, and I get to add the shop completionist trophy to my collection. In this final shop is also the second piece of Genji equipment, which I can buy for 1,000,000 gil, and honestly, it's an absolute bargain. So remember when I did that stupid bit about the very first mission of the game? Well, here's why. The next trophy I need to do is for viewing all the DMW cutscenes in the game. Now that I've hit chapter 10, all the cutscenes are available, and since I've now also got all the shops, all the DMW materia to increase the chances of a particular limit break appearing is available as well. I've only actually got 4 more cutscenes to get, so you think this wouldn't take long, wouldn't you? My strategy is to load up on DMW materia. Firstly, I get 2 Lucky Stars materia to increase the chances of Lucky Stars going off. In simple terms, Lucky Stars increases the chance of the DMW cutscenes appearing. Then I load up on DMW materia representing any DMW cutscenes that I'm missing. I start with Genesis's Apocalypse because he only has 2 cutscenes total and I'm missing one of them. I also equip a fairy ring for auto regen so I can out heal any damage, and then head into the very first mission of the game and just activate Lucky Stars whenever it appears, and then wait until the missing cutscene is played out. Luckily, it took me about half an hour to get that missing cutscene. Then I grab Airstrike materia for Tsang and Meteor Shots materia for Cloud. There's now only 3 cutscenes missing, so how long do you think it took me to grab the missing cutscenes? An hour? 2 hours? 3? Nope, 10 hours. 10 hours of pure RNG hell. And there was nothing I could do about it. I just had to sit there, proc Lucky Stars when it came up, and pray that when Tsang or Cloud appeared, that a new cutscene would show up. I got so bored that halfway through, I needed a break and carried on with the plot. I read all 4 gravestones in the final area, representing loveless chapters. Then I defeated 5 Genesis generals to open up this light path, and I got the cage opener trophy for doing so. About 5 minutes later, I hit the final point of no return, so I had to go back and continue getting the DMW cutscenes that I was missing. What was my reward when all was said and done and I had 100% DMW? Well, the DMW Master Trophy and my 3rd Genji piece in the form of Genji armor. I also grabbed the Zedric accessory for an upcoming fight, as well as the final piece of Genji equipment in the form of the Genji glove for the Genji equipment trophy. Then I sort my materia out so that I have Costly Punch, Double Cast and Kiraga, my Vitality and Spirit up to 255, and my HP up to 99,999. Then it's time for the ultimate super boss, Minerva, who's an absolute cakewalk. I Donkey Punch her repeatedly with Costly Punch, and cast Kiraga whenever I dip below 60,000 health. With Double Cast I heal about 50,000 at a time. Yes, Judgment Arrow is annoying, but I have more than enough Phoenix Downs and Elixirs that it's never ever backbreaking. After over 100 Costly Punches, I whittle down Minerva's health to 0, and I earn the Divine Rule Broken trophy for defeating her, as well as the Mission Completionist trophy for completing all 300 missions. All that's left to do now is to switch over to hard mode and complete the game. Similar to the OG Final Fantasy VII, the rest of the game is an absolute joke, and I defeat the Monado and Genesis to finish the job. Something unimportant happens, and I get the Thanks to You Zach trophy for completing the game, the Soldier of Legend trophy for completing the game on hard mode, and the Living Legacy Platinum trophy.